I'll get it.
Ma.
I got it. Okay, so we are on chapter 5. And chapter 5 just basically talks about the prescription. So she's on prescription 2, which is balancing your checkbook and knowing your net worth. Hmm. So there's an app that I have. Well, I got another account, and you can go into any of the what do you call those things? The credit bureaus, and you can start like putting your information in, and it'll tell you your net worth. When you see the number, you're gonna be like, "Oh my God, I'm not worth nothing," or you're worth a little bit, maybe $20. So knowing your numbers, and we've talked about this a while, knowing your numbers, knowing where your money's going, how your money's going out, and things like that. So you want to balance your checking account monthly. So I don't know when that would be for you guys, like at the beginning of the month or, the end of the month, whatever that looks like. Um, One of the things is the service charges. So this was a lesson. Well, I don't want to say a lesson, but this was something that just recently happened to me. Um, so I had got a new account and was started writing, just kind of paying my bills and things like that. And then paying my bills, it was the service fee. So you'll have like an overdraft fee, $37, things like that. So you don't want to overdraft your account more than, what you have in your accounts. Okay. So you want it to be where you're balancing. And if you don't have, the money, what I've learned is if I don't have it, I'm just not going to spend it. And so deduct automation, automatic payments and service charges. So if you go to the ATM, that's 395. So if you're withdrawing money out of your accounts, um, if you go to the ATM machine and you're pushing through and they say there's a 395 service charge, write all of that down. Um, I'm gonna do something today. I'll probably do like a little makeshift checkbook kind of thing. That was one of the things that my mom, I remember, I remember when I had a checking account and I was probably in my early teens, like 19, 20-ish, and I was working at this place called Hugh Woods, and I had got my first checking account, and I was doing good. And then all of a sudden, I really, some people came to me and was like, well, because I needed gas money. And they were like, oh, you know that you can write a check and we'll give you the cash for the check. That was my downfall. So I would write a $50 check, go in and get $50. And so it started overdrawing my account because the funds weren't there. So I remember my mom had seen it and then she was just like, give me your checkbook. At no point did she ever sit down and say, let's work on this together so you can see where you're messing up. So write down all the service charges. So I'll do like a little deduction on that. So here's one where it says, let's see, this a girl named Jessica, it took her surprise to look at her own checking account statement. She said to her surprise, she discovered that a health club membership that she had canceled 12 months ago had still been being deducted from her account. And because she had never checked her balance, the oversight had gone unnoticed for a whole year. So for a whole year, she's just out here thinking that she's okay. She said, had she known the helpful hint, she would have caught the problem earlier. Once she was aware of the error, she contacted them, and so she got $600 back. But at the same time, you wouldn't have had that error. So $600 in a year. To achieve mastery over your checkbooks, you must become vigilant in maintaining checkbook records. Dedication to small daily activities to make a difference between success and failure. She says it's important to stop manipulating money and demonstrating a willingness to improve your checkbook habits. So it's like when you try to Like, you have these overdraft fees and you're just like, okay, well, we need it. So I'll just go ahead and overdraft my account by, $20 or whatever. That $20 starts to add up, as the days go. I know with one banking service that I used to have, they would give you $100. You could go up to like maybe $500. But why would you want to do that? You know what I'm saying? Because as soon as you get your paycheck, that money, that $500 is already being repaid, when you could just have your money. Um, so use a registry consistently to list checks and deposits. So you want to have something to where you know what's coming in and what's going out. And I bought this little budget planner off of TikTok, but I don't use it. There's one in the back, like when you go through, like in the beginning of it, it has all of your stuff that you're listing, all of the expenses. And then in the back, well, like it has an expense tracker. This is hard for me to use. Do you know what it's just hard for me because I used to when I started really getting my money together, I would I would deduct my check and then I would put like what I had. And so it was kind of like the same system as a checkbook, but it has like this budget tracker. So it tells you everything that you spend, and you'll be really able to see what you're spending, month to month, and knowing what expenses to cut out. Because like I just paid $50 for my XM radio in my car. Do I want to do that? No. So I have to find something that's going to be able to reduce that debt. And I know that there's like a piece that I can get in my car so I can listen to my Spotify. And my Spotify is like $10 a month. Well, 10.99 or something like that a month. So you just want to be able to reduce the costs at every point of your life. Okay. ATM, when you go to the ATM machine, check your balances because you're spending that fee if you don't have a free service with the bank. So if you go to a bank outside of, your normal ATM, like your normal bank, and they have ATM fees, write it down because it's probably like 3.95. I know when I went to Las Vegas, it was like 7. Did you say something? Brianna? Oh, so it's like it was $7, 7.95 or something like that. So pay attention to those when you're going to the ATM fees because you don't want it to be where you're paying $20 plus 3.95 because that's like $23 and some change that's coming out your account when you can just go to the ATM of your bank. And then if you have an app, highly recommend that you download your banking app because your banking app will tell you what banks you can go to that are free, right? And then so she says Quicken to you to use Quicken because it's inexpensive. A basic program costs about 34.95, and it's an easy way to keep up on your finances and keep them organized. But to start out, she says I feel the manual system is an invaluable way of fully understanding the process. So I think with Quicken you can scan your receipts and then it'll go in and categorize the receipt for you, which would be dope. I was thinking about getting that too. And then it says don't write post-dated checks. I don't know I mean, we don't write checks now, so I don't know when she wrote this book. But we writing a post-dated check. Now I know that there are some that can do that. So say for instance, back in the day, you had a bill that was due, let's say like your car payment. And so you went in and wrote a post-dated check for your car payment. What a post-dated check is that if it's due on the 20th, you'll write the check now and then you post-date it for the 20th. Now, say on the 20th, you don't get a certain amount of money because that's automatically coming out of your check. So she says, writing post-dated checks. Checks with the date at some time in the future is just another way of creating debt. You're receiving merchandise or service today for a payment in the future. She said it's a very easy way to get yourself overextended and you'll be playing financial catch up. When you write post-dated checks, you give up control of your checking account. According to her banker, technically the check becomes a legal tender and is cashable once you write it, regardless of the date. So you could put on there the 20th and send it off, and that merchandiser, that merchant is going to cash that check. They can cash it whenever. So they bypass that date. So it becomes legal tender and cashable. And it says the only exception is if it is specifically states do not cash before the specific dates. In other words, if the check is deposited early and gets past the teller, it could get through the system without anyone noticing the date and cause your account to be overdrawn. Also, don't write checks before depositing funds to cover them. This practice is called kitting and it's illegal. Mm. Um, there's no need to create an unnecessary drama in your life to have the to race to the bank to make last minute payments. So don't write checks. You know, what's that saying? Don't write checks that your ass can't cash. Don't do that. So it's basically if the money's there, you know what you have, do what you got to do, and then, you know, pay what you have. Deduct automatic payments and service charges. So, insurance companies and health clubs often use automatic payment processing as a convenience for you. But sometimes we forget, and I know I have my insurance that is automatically withdrawn out of my account. But forgetting to make the deductions from your account can be a problem. If you can't live without automatic deductions, be sure to deduct charges on the first of the month so you don't forget. If you have an interest-bearing checking account, record any interest added to your account when you receive your statement. What does that look like and what does that mean? So say, for instance, your bank account accrues interest, and I don't know if it's like you could have between 5% and I want to say 15 or 20% interest on your account. And so um, every so often, and I don't know the cycle, but you'll get like maybe 5 cents or 10 cents or 30 cents added to your account. That's the interest that you've accrued onto that account. So adding that interest into that. So if you have $100 and then you've accrued that interest of 10 cents or whatever, add that to that so that you'll know exactly what it is. Um, so she said also document as much information as you can in your register when you write your checks, such as dates, covering subscription dues, service bills that come over come other than monthly. It makes it easier to trace and determine when the next payment is due. You should always know what everything is due, when everything on your accounts are due. I don't care if it's like for me, Sirius XM Radio, that's due on the what is today, the 15th? I want to say the 13th of the month. Um, I have my internet that's due on the 19th. I have things that are due on the 20th. So paying it earlier than the date, but you should know when it's due. You should know when everything is due, when your car insurance is due, when all payments are due, you should know that. All right. It makes it easier to determine and trace. Know what kind of service charge plan that you have on your account. So what I hate right now, and I will say this out loud, what I dislike is I have a service charge when I'm making a payment to my rent. So crazy. So it's every time I make a payment to my rent, I'm paying an additional $9.99, which I don't like that. So if my rent is $500, I'm paying $599 and nine $509.99 because of the service fee that's on my account. So I have to add in when I see my rent payment, I know I have to add in. Now I have to add in the 999 to make sure I have all bases covered. Um, So, are you charged to use your debit card? Do you have a service fee when you're using your debit card? Is it like $2 and some change? What is the service fee? Those are things that you need to get on your bank and ask your bank. Is there a service fee for me to use my credit card? Is there a service fee for me to use my debit card? Is there a cost for telephone calls to customer service center? So make sure you're understanding what all fees are coming. Avoid ATM card purchases, or point of sale transactions if you are not disciplined enough to write them down at the time of your purchase. Okay, so I don't know if I have this problem, but she says because the receipt for the purchase looks like cash receipts, they can easily be discarded before deducting them from your checkbook. If a transaction is done as a Visa check card as opposed to an ATM transaction, you'll need to sign the receipt. But again, you it's still easy to get confused and skip deducting the amount from your balance. Forgetting to write down one or two point of sale transactions can easily cause you to get confused and skip deducting the amount from your balance. So every card that you have, you need to, every transaction, just write it down or keep the receipts. And when you get home at the end of the day, write down all of those transactions. When you use your credit card, write it down. If you've used your ATM card or your debit card, just have all of your receipts and write it down, because then it helps you know at the end of the day what you've spent. Also minimizing your visits to the ATM. If it's if you make lots of withdrawals for 20s, they'll start to look like after a while that you'll make while, and you may not be able to account for them accurately. So having cash on hand, I don't have sometimes because I always have my cards. Don't use the overdraft coverage feature as a crutch to ensure that none of the checks bounce. So that was something that I did this past week, and I thought I will never do that shit again. Instead, properly manage your checking account, and there won't be any need to worry about becoming overdrawn and causing debt or expensive fees to accumulate. She says if you use a line of credit to cover overdrafts, your bank may transfer the exact amount needed, but watch your money mindset. It's easy to start thinking of this available credit as an additional cash in an account when it's not really cash. It's a liability once you spend it and it adds up. So some people have credit cards that have a transfer amount. So say for instance, you have a credit card that has like $500, you can transfer that to the new credit card, and it helps you. So like say you have an overdraft card and it's like 250, you can take that 500 and transfer monies to different cards. It becomes, a little crutch. Anybody have anything they want to say? No? Yes? No? Yes? No? Okay. All right. So balance your checkbook as soon as your statement is received and report any errors immediately to the bank. So if you don't get your bank statement, I get a text message that tells me my bank statement came. So I then go into my banking app and you'll see all your expenses, and it'll tell you, what am I trying to say? It'll have like statement. It'll give you a statement that you can use as a PDF. So you just go into there and you just, make sure everything's lined up. I have a system on my new account that tells me when things are spent. So there was a Lyft transaction, and I'm like, I don't use Lyft. So who's using my account? So my credit card was on a Lyft account, obviously that my daughter used it. So I have to ask, like who did that? And I started to fight it, and then I was like, no, this may have been one of my kids. So then I go and I asked. So report anything within 60 days. So once you get your bank statement, go over your bank statement and look at it, because you can't report anything after 60 days. She says if you have questions, a transaction, and it takes the bank more than 10 days to investigate it, they'll awfully often temporarily credit your account until the investigation is complete. She said, remember, faithfully reconciling your account each month gives you tremendous confidence and control when you know your account is balanced to the penny. She said most statements arrive the same time every month. If you need an extra nudge, mark that day on your planner. So you'll know my statement should be coming this day, right? Um, if you're part of a couple, oh, so if you have a couple, if you guys are a couple, that's on page 126, and it talks about couple accounts, like you have the same account, and then some women have their own account. He has his own, but then you have an account where you guys deposit money to pay the bills. That's the account that you would want to, make sure, like if you guys are paying the mortgage, if you guys are paying, anything together, that's where you have your separate account and you can just automatically transfer to that account. Um, so she says your paycheck should go into your personal account, and then you and your partner can both transfer a certain amount of funds into a household account each month. But both partners should be aware of what's happening when the household account, but only one needs to write out checks to pay household expenses. So you don't want to have two checkbooks and then he's writing a check and then you're writing a check and then it becomes a kerfuffle. Okay. So you want to have one person that's over the money. Clarification should be made in advance with your partner to determine what expenses are paid from the personal checking and then the business. So it's like massages, lunches, manicures, massages, and whatever. That should be out of your personal. Together, it's like car payments, insurance, um, whatever that is when it looks like for your coupling. Um, Pre-reconcilement. She says, don't make balancing your checkbook out to be more than it is, because it's really not. I think we as African Americans, we weren't taught that. And so because we weren't taught that, it seems difficult. And I know like when it's something that you have when it comes down to money, it brings a lot of anxiety for people. And people just avoid it. So rather than deal with it, they just avoid it. Um, how much did you start with the month? If you started with $2,000, um, when did you add? What did you subtract? Um, what did you add more to it? Did you subtract from it? If you can deal with the basic arithmetic, you can balance your checkbook. It's simple, simple mathing. Mathing is it's easy. If you go to the ATM machine, okay, so I spent 295 at the machine, which brings me anxiety because it's like, damn it, I don't want to pay 295. But learning where you can go to um, the free ATMs, that's a thing. Schedule a specific time when you can focus without interruption on your checkbook. And then she said, then repeat this affirmation 3 times with enthusiasm and gusto. That's on page 127. I am financially responsible adult and I can do this. Okay, because man, reconcilement, that's actually in the moment. To balance your checkbook, you simply want to reconcile your records with your bank records. Keep in mind, everything that actually happens within your account is reflected on the checking account statement. So once you get your bank statement, every transaction is listed there. Everything, every automatic transaction, everything is there. Deposits and credits, withdrawals and debits. Anything that you have done is listed on that transaction. Okay. Begin by going over your statement and matching it against your registry. Place a check mark on every transaction listed in the register that corresponds correctly with the statement. Now, I remember at one point back in the day when I did start writing checkbooks, that was something, oh no, this is what happened. So I wrote some checks and remember when she talked about the kidding. So I had wrote some checks. Now you can go to jail for writing bad checks. You can literally go to jail. And so I ended up writing some checks and Denver County, and they were like, no, ma'am, no, ma'am. And so what they do, which I like, is that they send you to a money management class. They send you right on there. And if it's your first offense, they'll send you to this class. And so you spend all day. I think it's 2 Saturdays I went, and you'll spend all day in this class. And then they teach you how to manage your money. It was a good class, but I hated it and I was embarrassed, that I had to go to this class. But it taught me how to manage my checkbook and know where my money's going. Um, Next, you want to deal with any outstanding payments or checks to bring to balance and the statement right up. So That's like if you have a check that you wrote maybe at the beginning of the month and that check still hasn't cleared, or if you've made a payment and it still hasn't cleared, you're kind of like wondering why hasn't it cleared. Those are things that you need to rectify immediately, because you don't want it to be something that'll be a surprise later on, but you want to rectify that immediately and, ask what's going on, call the merchant, whatever the case may be. Um, let's see. So she gives you on page 128, the sampling. And so I used to do that. So it's on page 128 where you would write down all of your things and you start with your amount here and then you just do your deductions. So I used to do that. So ending balance shown on the statement at any deposits you've made not shown on the statement, subtotal, subtract outstanding checks and debits. This equals your ending balance. So one of the things I used to do, and this was crazy. So we had an account, my daughter and I, and um, there would be payments going out, but it had like ending balance and then it had like your current balance. And so you thought, okay, the numbers never matched. And so you just really didn't understand what it was. So when I talked to the lady, she said, well, this is what's happening. And so to have her explain it, and you can have the bank, bank teller explain it. I don't want people to get embarrassed by, I don't know what they're talking about. Call them and ask them. If you don't know, ask them to tell them, show me what happened. If I had a balance of $2,000 and now I'm down to like 105, what happened in the interim, and they'll ask you. So she says the ending balance should agree to the penny with the balance in your check registry. If it's off by 10 cents, your account is off balance. It's not necessary for you to be obsessive and spend 5 hours looking for that 10-cent error, but you would go through the steps once more to verify you use the correct numbers. If you still come up with the difference, it's not nominal amount, but you can take the bank's ending balance as your own this time. Don't berate yourself. Don't beat yourself up if it's not going to be the exact amount. Instead, acknowledge and understand like I'm doing the best I can. Um, but if this is something that's persistent, you got to really pay attention to all the receipts that you're using, everything that you've done throughout the day. That's why when you have your receipts, when they ask you, do you want a receipt? Absolutely. And I usually say no because I'm like, it's going to show up on my bank account. It's going to show up. But I'm still learning now. I'm going to take the receipt because then me sitting down and saying, okay, this is what I spent. Some point of sales machines do have a service fee that you would have to pay or they pay. Um, the most common checkbook errors is still page 128 is make sure you've deducted all charges, fees, and withdrawals shown on your statement, but not in your checkbook, your check registry that may apply to your account. Also, be sure to add any dividends or any deposits shown on your statement, but not in your check registry, that amount that apply to your account. If the amount of your difference is divisible by the number 9, your error could be transposition. For example, if your check was for $63 and you wrote 36 in your registry, the difference is $27, which is divisible by 9. So carefully verify the number again. Make sure you have not inadvertently listed a deposit in the check column or a check. So that was one of the things I did too, is like I would put deposits and checks and check. It was messy. It's a messy situation. It sounds a little strange, but I've done it more than once an occasion. Sometimes we were like in haste or distracted, and you'll put a deposit amount in the check column, and you're like, well, where'd that come from? And so check for micro encoding errors, the encoded check amount in the lower right-hand corner of your canceled check. When the checks are processed at the bank, they go through a proof of deposit system, meaning the operator manually inputs the amount of your check and balances it to the deposit of the person or the entity receiving the credit. If you wrote a check for $50 and they accidentally added an extra zero, your check will be processed for $500. Crazy. Normally, this type of error is caught right away because the operators, when they balance out, the teller, when they balance out at the end of the day, they'll see that they made that error. But it's impossible for it to slip by. So you should eliminate the option that causes the error. If you're balancing your checkbook after a period of neglect, if it's been months or even years since you've balanced your account, you don't have to go back to the beginning and work your way forward. But you'll have to assume the bank has the correct up to this point. Let's go through the steps to determine the correct balance for you to begin using so you can balance the bank statement next month. So if you haven't balanced your statement, and I haven't, so you'll call the bank for an account balance, or you'll go on your app. So now I don't know when she wrote this book. I just don't know when she wrote it. But you'll go into your app, okay? And it lists all of your transactions. Everything is there, okay? And it'll even give you a statement. So go in there, look at it. Um, and all checks paid. So you'll see everything that's been paid. And then, so if you go into your account and you'll see pending, that means that that amount is still pending. Like they haven't taken it out of the account. So keep that in mind that you know that you're making all these transactions and there's still some pending transactions. Just keep those in mind. Update your check registry in indicating which checks have been paid. Identify all outstanding checks and totals. Deduct the outstanding checks from your bank balance. Use the remaining amount as your new balance forward. Record all future transactions. So basically just keeping up. And she's like, you did it. Online banking, this is where we're at right now, is online banking. And so she says, Black women are now computer savvy and navigate easily through cyberspace. Thus, more and more of us do online banking, which I do. She said, this is great. It means we can do the following types of services at any time, day or night, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, whenever you feel like it, you can check your transactions. Okay. Payments and transfers can be done in three different type of ways. Today, done immediately. You could schedule a time to send it out. You can do a recurring balance. So, like if you know your insurance comes out every time the same month, you could just go ahead and put that in recurring on your online banking. Um, so she said, let's say that you make sure you build your savings account. You choose not to wait until the end of the month to see how much money is left over to save. We know how poorly that works, right? So it's just like, So what I do is when my check goes into my account, I automatically put 125 in my savings account. Automatically. That my check goes into my checking, but I take 125 and I put it into my savings. Then I have $100 going into my IRA. So that automatically comes out of my check. That I don't have to worry about that. So she says, you can decide to become more proactive and set up a reoccurring payments of $100 on the 15th of each month to be deducted from your checking account and credited to your savings. This way, you've made a wonderful financial commitment to yourself. So you don't need to make sure, but you need to make sure that the 100 is in your checking on the 15th. So otherwise, it'll be overdrawn and you don't want that. Okay. So determine your net worth. So here is where I know that you can go into, I want to say it's any of the apps. Another critical step is cultivating financial savvy. This is page 132, is being clear on the difference between self-worth and net worth. Simply put, if assets are liquidated and your debts paid off, what amount would be left? Is the amount your value? The dog got it. Is this amount your value or your worth as a human being? Of course not. No matter what the figure is, but unfortunately, many of us have brought into societal notion and associates the value of a human being with your network. Okay, so Black women are no exception to the old masculine way of thinking. We, he or she makes the most. He or she who makes the most has the most wins. So I don't know. I know there's a way that you can find your net worth. Ticka, ticka, ticka. This doesn't explain where you can find it. Yeah, I'll have to show you guys how to, I'll create like a little, maybe like a check and balance thing, because I was going to do that for myself, a little check and balance, and then show you where you can find your net worth. Okay, so you'll be able to know where your net worth is. All right, then page 134 is the exercises. So that's where it starts your exercises, and page 136. So exercise number one is your net worth. There it is. Complete this statement and fill in the amounts. And she says, I blank as of this date, whatever the date is, acknowledge that this is a statement of my finances. It may not be where I'd like it to be, but I know that it will improve from here. I am committed to getting my money straight and completing this worksheet and another step in my journey to financial health and peace of mind, and you sign it. So you have your assets, your cash on hand, checking accounts, saving accounts, certificates of deposit, stocks and bonds. Those are things that we need to start learning about. And I'm going to try to find somebody that can teach us about that. Money market funds, your automobiles, mutual funds. Because did you know that your automobile had worth, a value to it? You can go on to Carfax, I believe, and you can see how much your car is worth. If it's your car, so like my Mercedes, I can go and you can go into Carfax and you can figure out how much your car is worth because that's a value. That's an asset to you, right? Mutual funds, primary real estate, if you guys have real estate anywhere, income properties, your IRA, 401ks, and then you'll just list how much all that is. Liabilities are your credit cards, charge accounts, automobiles, like if you're making a payment on the automobile, home improvements, credit union loans, student loans, first mortgages, home equity loans, loans to family, friends, your 401k loan, past due taxes, all those things. And so she said there's some add-ons. Now you have to make basic items accounted for. Use the following, fine tune and add anything. Cash value of a life insurance. Do you have life insurance? What's the cash value of the life insurance policy that you have? Credit union checking or savings account, money owed to you by others, stock options, business interests, annuities, an investment from which one receives an income for a lifetime. Like that could be like lottery winnings, things like that. Tax efficient savings plan, pension plans, KEHO or SEP, retirement plans for self-employment, household furnishing, antiques. Look through your life and see if there's anything in your house that's worth something. Collectibles, clothing and jewelry, life insurance loans, unimproved land. So if you have some land, and then finally total it out. Okay. So your total assets minus liabilities equals your net worth. That's how you do that. So that's on page 134. If you get the book, page 134. Okay. So how does it feel to see your net worth? Um, is the amount more or less than you expected? And what would you like to do in the next 3 years to build your net worth? Okay. 5 years and even 10 years. Record your reactions and emotions. Write down any long-term goals that come to mind that make you want to do that. So that's the exercise in there. I gotta put my little thing in there because I won't do the exercise because I'll forget. Right, that's page 134. And then page 136 is another exercise, your real worth. Okay. A lot of us equate having money as our worth, and no, that's not true. All right. So she says, complete this statement and read it aloud each month after you balance your checkbook. I blank promise to be proud of myself and to love myself for my financial accomplishments up to this point in my life. I know that whatever the state of my finances is today, it's only a temporary situation, only temporary. Guys, I want you to really get that and feel that where we're at right now is just temporary. Okay. I am willing to be more attentive to my checkbook, realizing that my net worth will increase. I'll stay focused, consistent, and will be patient. And I will have patience with myself and with this process. Most important, I'll feel good about myself because I know that I'm priceless. And she said, sign it. Okay. So next week, we'll talk about chapter 6, which is the spending prescription number 3, which is develop a spending plan. Um, which, yikes, is that hard? Yes, it is. Oh, she's got a whole little thing back there. I don't know how to do. I have to read that. That's kind of, it's overwhelming. All right. Anybody have anything they want to chime in about this or any questions?
She has a monthly spending plan, which is really good. On
Yeah, and the
141.
yeah, I saw that. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
She got spiritual, total, recovery, self improvement, development, children, charities. It's good.
She's got entertainment, movies,
This
concert
book may
theater.
be a little old because gas is not $33.
Girl, where?
You heard me.
Where's gas $33? You just
Where
like, mm-mm, mm-mm,
I put in gas, I can get nowhere from $33.
nowhere. Mm-mm.
Look, she put in breakfast $10.
Girl, that's crazy. Where? Transportation
Yeah,
33. Girl, that's $80 for me. $80.
and lunch $25.
A car wash $4? Where? She got groceries as 145. Yeah, this was back in the 70s. This ain't current events.
Yeah.
This is old. All right, anybody have anything? So
But
just
I do know one day you
go.
should add your checks. So one day I went to the bank. I had two checks to deposit for my brother into my account because our last name is the same. So something told me to add those checks up in the car. And Brianna, I think you was on the phone with me when I did that. So I add up the checks. I forgot what it came to. It was like two checks he came to 400 and some dollars, 450 or 430.
Mhm,
So the tailor took the checks and like you say, how they deposit into the account. So she gave me back the receipt. And the receipt was way less than what I deposit.
mhm,
So I had called it right in and there by me adding the checks up. I said, no, I got this amount. I said, did you put both checks in? And she looked, one of the checks said fail on the floor. So she only deposited one check and gave me that amount of that check. But when I looked at my thing, by me adding up two checks, I knew the math wasn't mathing. So I had to tell her, look, that ain't how they go. So she said, oh, I'm sorry, here go the other check.
mhm.
And then she deposited came to exact what I had. So sometimes we be so quick to run out the bank and get our
Mm.
deposit. And when you get home, if you look at your deposit, they make mistakes. And
Yeah, yeah.
so if you don't really check that, you got one thing and then you writing a check for this amount
Mhm.
and it's not adding up.
Yeah.
So just to say to that, even though they tell us and they trying to add up your stuff and get you in and out. And do you
Mhm.
have any questions real quick? And
Yeah.
sometimes we're trying to let the next person get in line because the line is started forming. But at the same time, they make mistakes adding.
Yeah.
And if
So
I
you
didn't
have
know how to add and I was just the person wanted to the bank.
yeah, just go. We just and we're
But
so
lucky I had did my math.
yeah, you're so programmed to just go in real fast. I just need to make a deposit. Blah, blah, blah. You grab the receipt and then you leave. But you don't take the time to look and say,
Yeah.
okay, did you deposit all the checks? And at this point, you are your own entity. You are your own business. I'm going to sit here and I'm doing a business transaction. I don't give a shit with the people behind me. Okay, because you'd probably do the same thing. This is my money. This is my livelihood that I'm dealing with. So don't feel anxious about it. Just sit and just, before you walk out of the bank, take your time. Let other people go. And then if you have a question, go to there's always a person that's just sitting there doing absolutely nothing. And go to them and say, I just deposited a check. Can you make sure that, what happened or whatever, or just, sorry, can I, when you're done, when you get a minute, can you help me with this transaction, whatever. But don't walk out the bank and then get in your car and then you're halfway home, like you, Miss Angie, and then you see it like, oh shoot, that didn't happen. Before you walk
Mhm.
out that bank, make sure all, that's why, I love that saying, all hearts and minds clear. Make sure that everything is clear before you leave, because you don't want to get out and then, your money's not right or you're not doing anything. A lot of my transactions, I don't go into a bank. I'm literally online with everything. So, here's the situation. I was in Minnesota, and I was supposed to get a per diem check. And my check didn't go through because the banking system that I had declined my check because it didn't have my name on it. But my last name was there, but my full name wasn't there. So my job had tried to deposit this check twice and it didn't go through. No one called me to tell me anything because I could have called the bank and told them, yes, that's my per diem check. I'm out of town right now. So when I called the bank after they told me that it didn't go through, I'm like, what do you mean? So I call the bank and then they tell me that this is what it was. And I'm thinking, oh my God. I was like that's I'm out of town now. Now I'm kind of stuck. But thankfully I had went in and pulled some money from my IRA, so I survived. But what I'm saying is like when those kind of things happen, I just eliminated the whole account. Hi, little tater tot. I eliminated that whole account because I felt like when you have those kind of transactions that are necessary transactions, you want to have a reputable bank that will accept all transactions, no matter what it is. So I started going and I started taking money out of my IRA, and the same bank returned the money. And I'm like, why? Well, they were doing it for a while and then they just kind of stopped doing it. So I was like, I need a more reputable bank that is going to accept my IRAs and going to accept, when I go to work, when I'm traveling for a trip, my per diem payments, because I can't have myself out here stuck. So again, all of my transactions are pretty much online. I don't have like a physical bank that I can go into. I know that they do have some places that you can, but I just do everything offline. So anything that I'm using, um, I just go in and I have like a file. So I'll show you guys my file. Let me share my screen. Um, okay, you guys can see. Okay, so I keep all of my expenses in a file folder on my computer. So any payments that I make, I am saving as a PDF, and I just put my payments in here. So I'll show you how I do it. But then I'm going to make a little kind of checkbook, kind of check and balance to, um, where is it? So all of my online bill payments I have here. So I've listed them out here in all my payments. My 2025 payment. So we're in February. So that's my rent. And what I do is I add my rent payment plus, which God, I thank God it was that amount, plus the 9.99 fee because, oh my God. So this is January. So January you'll see a lot more. So I'll just make the payment. I put the date that I made the payment and then I put the amount of what I paid. And this is like the receipt to show that this is what I paid. So everything I do online a lot. So that's my payment. So it shows this is what I paid, and then that's how I do that. So when I make my payments, I just go into the computer, I put in every payment that I have, and then I just list out what I've done. So it could be even, it was Christmas and I had bought my daughter a vanity set. So I just put the vanity set in there, how much I put, my Xfinity bill, all of my bills are going in here. So then I just list it that way. So that's, that's one way to do it. So any payments that I make, I always print the receipt and put it in a PDF and I add it to that file. So I know exactly what I spent. So if I was to go back and balance a checkbook, I would have all of those payments there to say, I paid this, this, that. Any receipt, gas, which I haven't done. I haven't really saved my receipts from gas, but I need to start doing that.
Now I have a question. Like, what if a person, because you said you don't go to the bank.
Mm-mm.
Now, what if somebody writes you, because you still can write checks. You still can. They still have, the older white people
She said
and
the
older
older black
black
people.
people, I'm gonna say older people,
Mm-hmm.
but they still live by checking account.
Mm-hmm.
Because recently I saw one in the bank had his checkbook, and I'm like, they still do checks.
Yeah.
So they haven't stopped checks because those people don't know how to go online.
Yeah.
So they still is able to balance and drive their car there and do stuff. So what if somebody did write you a check and send you a check? How do you cash it if you don't go to the bank? I'm curious.
So on your online banking,
Uh-huh.
so this is a black bank, One United is called. So you go into your banking app and so you go into um, on your app, it says, you see where it says deposit checks?
I can't see your screen good, but as long as you read,
Okay,
that's fine.
so it says deposit checks up here. It's got to be
Okay.
clear, but you can deposit a check and then you'll just agree to so I have to agree to the whatever, and then you'll just take a picture of it. Take a picture of your check, the front and the back of the check, and then it'll upload and it'll deposit.
She got froze.
Did I
Oh,
freeze?
okay.
Okay.
So
So
your deposit, that way you
you
take a
can
picture and
deposit
put it
online.
inside the bank and let it cool.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. What about a money order? Because I do money orders sometimes. You can do a
No,
money order deposit that same way
I
into
don't
your
think you
account?
can do a money
Or
order.
do you have to go to a currency exchange?
I think you would have to go into the bank and deposit the money order that way. I don't think you can deposit a money order. I've never had it.
Okay.
I've never done a money order.
Okay. I was just
Everything
curious.
yeah, everything I do is pretty much online. It's just online. I do transactions with my credit card online. Anything, that's how I move and operate. You know what I'm saying?
Do you carry cash?
No. I try to, but I normally don't. But I am gonna start probably putting like $40 in my purse, just to have that. Because, what if one day you don't have money on your card, but you'll have the cash.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe like $60, whatever fees, whatever your day-to-day expenses are. Like if you needed gas, you'd have that $20. If you needed anything else, you'd have, so maybe 60, just take 60 and put cash
Or
60 in there.
somebody do you a favor and yeah, but you just never know when you might need a job,
Mm-hmm.
anything. And you give
Yeah.
a person 20, they'd be okay to do it
Yeah.
because anything can happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's that. Anybody got any other questions? Any other things they want to say about the book? No? Brianna, did you pass? Uh-oh, hold on.